G'day all, Ben here, East West. This is going to be part 12 of our series of building a charting Python package using Python and tkinter. So let's jump into the code. So here we are on part 12, and at this stage we're going to bring in another indicator, another different technical study. So as I come down here in the notebook, we've got the MA function, we've got the RSI function. Now we're going to bring in a fresh function. So the first thing I'm going to do actually is just go up to this add study, and what I'm going to do, I'm doing this slightly out of order, but I'm doing that for a reason. I'm just going to bring in the MACD. Now the reason I'm bringing this in by itself is because when you start working through these, some of these indicators bring in their own unique set of challenges for the coder to get around. And the MACD is a little bit different from the rest. So we're just going to do the MACD. I'll program it out and show you how to iron out the bugs that initially show up in it. So important to note here, I've called this add MACD study. That's going to be the function we're going to need to write. So I've just brought in my little heading here, function for tatting, which is obviously wrong, for adding the MACD, and just giving myself a cell there. So we'll just start off here by defining the MACD study. Once again, making sure that that function name is the same as is in the add study function. Sorry, a bit lost. Right, so now what we need to do here is we just need to add the MACD, and we're going to do this pretty much the same way as we did with the RSI. But of course, the thing with the MACD is that there's two lines with the MACD. There's the MACD signal line and the MACD line itself, plus there's a histogram. So this all gets a little bit different. So let's just start off easy, and we'll just bring in some labels and some entry widgets. So we're just going to bring off by bringing in the MACD slow, or the slow MACD. So that would be the MACD line itself. So we just do it the same way. We bring in the label, we give it the padding, and then we give it the entry window. We're just going to give it the standard for the MACD line is 26. That's the standard amount of periods, and we'll also give that a padding. So now we just want to do exactly the same thing, except for this time the fast line, which is the signal line. So we're just going to bring that in at 12. And then finally, we just need to bring in the signal length. The MACD signal length, and that as a standard is 9. So they're the standard presets for the MACD: 26, 12, and 9. That's what you need to plot it out. So now with the MACD, there's obviously two lines, and you probably don't want them the same color because obviously you want to, the thing with the MACD is you want to see that the signal line crossing the MACD line to help give you that signal. So what we have to actually do now is introduce some labels and buttons for selecting the color of each line. So we'll start off here with the label and button for selecting the color for the MACD line. So that's the 26 period line. So everything's pretty much the same here, except you can see here again we've gone selected MACD color. So once again, this is probably, I might tidy that up in future videos, but I'm just going to leave it as is for now. It is still bugging me a little bit, but and the MACD color button will just be exactly the same thing. Select color. So we're going to use that same function that we brought in here. Okay, so we're referencing back to this function again. Okay, so we've got the MACD color, the study window, and then we're going to do a further lambda update, which is update selected MACD color. And the reason that this is coming in is because there's a few different lines. So we're going to use the one function for the two different lines. You'll see as we go on. So we've done that. So now we just need to do pretty much the same thing for the MACD signal line. I'm just going to make this one orange. The other one was, of course, blue. So this is going to reference the same select color, and we're going to do the same select MACD color. So you can see here that this is referenced as MACD, this is referenced as MACD signal. That will become apparent very shortly. Now next we're just going to do a label and a button for the MACD histogram. Okay, so that is just going to be set to light grey. I don't know which color you want to use. If you wanted to make it so that it was sort of, green above the zero line, red below, I'm pretty sure you could. It just would involve a little bit more coding. I haven't bothered in this version. But everything here is just the same. I'll just tidy this up a tad. I just like to keep everything so you can sort of see it in the one cell. So everything here is pretty much exactly the same. We're referencing the same thing here, and we're referencing this, which we're about to write, and this is the component that we're using. So that's pretty straightforward, except of course for that extra bit of function that we've got to write, which we'll do now. So now we're going to define update selected MACD color, and the component is going to be the argument. So that means that it's this function, and this is going to be the argument MACD histogram, MACD signal, or just straight MACD. They're the three components. So to do this, we're just going to bring in a bunch of if statements. So if the component is MACD, then the selected color label is going to be the selected MACD color label. So what that means is it's going to reference selected MACD color label there. It's going to reference that, so it'll be orange. Okay. elif, it's MACD signal. It's going to reference the MACD signal color. Okay. Else, it's going, if it's not neither of these two, then it can only be the MACD histogram, and therefore it is going to select the color for the MACD, the selected MACD histogram color. And then we're going to say color, selected color dot label config, and the background is going to be that. So what this is doing, just to show you an example, is effectively what we're doing is we're just setting up each of these little squares with the correct color. Okay, so choose color, it changes. So it is doing exactly the same thing, but obviously we've got to do it for each of the components if you want to make them different colors, which I'd suggest you do. So could you do this more efficiently? Probably. Another thing to notice here is see how the box is much bigger. That's because of that special sizing code we did a few parts back. That's what that does. It takes all the information and goes, oh, I need a box this size to display it all. So let's move on now. Once we've done all that, we need to do our on OK function for the MACD. So putting in our on OK, so it does the same thing. It just grabs all the information, and then it's going to make them into integers, because we need that when we pass it into the trend function of the TA library. So all we've done here is the same thing, but when you work out the TA, when you put this through the TA library, it produces 3 columns. So it'll give us the column for the MACD line itself, the MACD signal line, and the values of the MACD histogram. Okay, and that is obviously a difference between the two. So once that's all worked out and been added to the data frame, for each component we then update chart with study. Okay, so we need to make the panel 1, because obviously the panel is the lower panel. That's what we want. Now the histogram, of course, is a little bit different. Here we're going to say update chart with study. I brought these two in, these two here, because obviously it's got to be a type bar, and the width of I've just given it 0.8. Now because we're using this same function, update chart with study, what we're actually doing here is we're passing in 2 more variables that aren't actually in the expected variables for the function. So what we have to do, similar here, panel equals 0. That means if there was nothing to pass, it would pass 0. So what we need to do is we need to make a little bit of adjustment here, so that when the chart gets updated, it will accept these parameters. So I mean, the width is perhaps not super important, but I think just visually the chart looks better that way, but that could be something you could play with yourself. All the rest of this is the same, okay? So it's all the same stuff. Maybe I can just make that padding 5. I don't think it really matters. But we just then run everything and then destroy the window. And then we need to run, of course, each of these. This is potentially a little bit inefficient, but I don't think it matters a whole heap for the computer, because you're not downloading, but it's updating the chart. So each time it's replotting, it's adding a study and replotting. But it all happens so fast you wouldn't even know. So I think for our intensive purposes, we can just leave it like this, though that is an inefficiency that perhaps you could eliminate in the future. So what we need to do is come down here to the function for updating the chart with study, and we need to pass a couple more variables in here so it will accept these new ones that we've brought in. So the way we do that is we're just going to pass here, we're going to say type equals, we're just going to pass line, okay, like that, because what will happen is it'll pass, it's like this panel equals 0. That means if it doesn't pass a type, the type will default to line. Here we're passing type bar, which means that this will be updated to bar, okay, when we pass it. And then the next thing we need to do here is we just need to bring in width, and let's just keep the width as we had it at 0.5, okay, like that. So that just means that, once again, if the width isn't passed, that'll be just passed automatically. But we have to then update in the study plot line. So instead of saying type equals line, we're going to say type equals type. So once again, if no type is passed, then it'll pass line as the default type. And the width here, we're going to say equals width, which once again means if there's nothing passed, it'll pass 0.5. And with that being said and done, I think we're ready to run this. So let's run this and see what it produces. So here we are with our chart. If we just come down here to study, we select MACD, add study. It brings up our study window, so we can change the parameters if we like. We can change the colors if we like. But if you're happy with all that as a default, you can just hit OK. And there is the MACD brought in with the histogram. So that all looks pretty good. Looks like it's working the way it should. So at this point, though, we have to think about this because there is another problem that this pane, this lower pane, produces. So when we're laying on top of this pane, it's all fine, right? Because basically any study that goes into this large pane, like the moving averages, they're all fine. That even if you're going to bring in Bollinger Bands, it's not going to distort the chart. The problem with down here is when you start bringing in different studies, you can't. This is one of the downsides of the MPL, the Matplotlib Finance package, is you can only have one lower pane. So what happens when you bring in the RSI? If we add the RSI, it's plotting in the same pane and it distorts everything. So what that means is we can only ever have one plot at a time. So yeah, in the next episode, we're going to have to figure out how we get around this because, like I said, only one indicator at a time. We can still clear everything, but we can only have that one lower pane. So I'll leave it here for this episode, this part. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. See you in the next one. Bye for now.